efficient way for us to do this is for each one of us to try and attempt to imagine what it is like inside of the possessed mind of the addict. For example, a dope fiend refers to the reefer bud as a roach because it resembles a cockroach.
What the fuck is people talking about? You gotta be crazy and acid to think that you look like a goddamn
The
cockroach.
auditorium today, you will notice that I have distinguished four distinct states of being in the cannabis or marijuana society. They are cool.
I remember saying something like, I do it lightheaded. Maybe you should try it.
Groovy.
Suddenly, there was a terrible roar all around us,
Hip.
and the sky was full of what looked like huge bats, all swooping and screeching and diving around the car.
And square.
And a voice was screaming, holy Jesus, where are these goddamn animals?
If he figures out what is happening, then he can rise one notch and become hip.
No point mentioning these bats, I thought. Poor bastard will see them soon enough. 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 Poor bastard will see them soon enough.
Then he becomes groovy. Groovy.
Okay, now, Richard, I want to change gears. Are you prepared to leave the Aspen episode in the rearview mirror?
I think I am.
Okay. Well, so when I was reading Better Than Sex, I think I got an ear for Hunter S. Thompson's style. And what that book really is, for the most part, is a series of faxes that he sent to other people during the Clinton versus George H.W. Bush versus Ross Perot, 92 election. And I've decided to write to you a letter like the kind of letter that Thompson used to write his friends. And I'm going to read it to you now.
Please do.
All right. Here we go. Dear Richard, 14 September 2025. I can't take it anymore, and I'm sure you can't either. A gang of fully plasticized WWE Nazis has invaded the White House and is currently pissing and shitting everywhere. It is disgraceful. Trump is selling MAGA hats from a side room of the Oval Office and pummeling Elon Musk in the eye socket for being an annoying twat. Marjorie Taylor Greene, previously installed as the regime minister of propaganda and enlightenment, has now turned jackal-like on her one-time master. Greene is accusing Trump of being a pedophile, which is one of her rare true statements while in office, and the radioactive fallout from the Epstein files threatens a nuclear winter for the cultural coherence of the MAGA movement. Finally, these reality TV hyenas have gone too far, and racist Barbie will have to correct the record. The pin has been pulled, and the grenade is on the table. In the scramble for credibility on the pedo question, the guns and trucks fanatics appear to be experiencing a collective grand mal seizure over the obvious connection between their God King and Savior, Donald Trump, and the most prolific child trafficker and elite money launderer in history, Jeffrey Epstein. If that's not enough, the Lizard King himself appears to have had a small stroke, probably from the latent toxic effects of 50 years of spray tan made with propellant banned by the Kyoto Protocol, and is babbling incoherently while his face slides off his head at a rate of 1 millimeter per day. Death, which is too sweet a fate for a man who has destroyed the lives and minds of millions of otherwise God-fearing Americans, appears to be coming for Donald at last. Hail Lord Shiva. As always, the pigs run the circus. Pay no attention to the greasy wizards behind the curtain. Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, Palmer Luckey, Silicon Valley neoconservatives, Blackwater and BlackRock, fossil fuel warlords, ultra-wealthy Turner Diary cranks, and other serpentine archons of the Fourth Reich are rampaging from department to department in their furtive, fear-headed quest to ignite a race war between the whites and the dog-eaters by destabilizing the federal government and funding the development of AI robo-canine units with 44 caliber turrets mounted on their backs. Fully automated enslavement of the restive masses. A database on every American compiled by a guy who steals the blood of the young in a quest for physical immortality. Earlier this year, the Department of Education was stormed and occupied by the barely literate wife of World Wrestling promoter and embattled serial rapist Vince McMahon, so that the annihilation of the Department of Education by the financial equivalent of orbital laser, could be achieved. Soon, an overqualified Clippy chatbot will replace the Department of Health and Human Services. The military will be ran by spreadsheets, drones, and people so poor that if they don't join the Marines, they'll have to accept living on the street next to guys with names like Knife and Dirt. All this so that the rich can get back to doing what they enjoy most, bringing more and more of Earth's peoples and resources into their legal ownership, and having weird sex with human-animal-machine hybrids at their secret base beneath Atlantis, while accelerating the auto-holocaust. It is too much for the sane to contemplate, and too funny for the already insane to ignore. God bless America. Yours in open rebellion, William A. Ingalls.
That was magnificent, Will.
This book is just full of writing like that.
God damn, I fucking love. When you know what? I don't know if this is going to be part of the end of this episode or the beginning of the next, but what I will say is, like, listening. I've been listening to it on audiobook. Well, you know what, Will? What do you say that we just end it there, and I can say what I'm going to say for the next episode?
Okay, sounds
or
good.
Are we already in the next episode? I just wanted to be able to do an intro.
Okay, do the intro. I'll stitch it up. I'll make it work.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Episode 2. Teehee. We're here. Okay, there we go. Intro done. Teehee. Hello. Thank you for listening. I'm Freaky Deaky Dick. That's Will. And we're talking about Hunter S. Thompson. Hee.
Together, we're gonna ruin your sense of humor.
I could just imagine the metrics, just the clip that intro just made, and people listening.
yeah. Put a real fucking crater in the retention. Okay. So let's transition now to talking about Fear and Loathing. How do you wanna get into the savage trip into the heart of the American dream?
Well, I guess we can just pick up where we left off with Hunter S. Thompson. So after the Aspen fiasco, which, by most metrics, like I said at the end of the last episode, was, even though he lost, it had ended up having a cultural impact and a positive effect. Hunter S. Thompson didn't see it that way. And during the Freak Power movement, Hunter S. Thompson developed a profound addiction to drugs. I believe that was probably already... I think that he had been a recreational drug user even during Hell's Angels. I don't think that was necessarily anything new. But it got to the point now where he was a daily user in excess. Cocaine, mescaline, acid, that damn dirty weed, Will. Even that. Amphetamines, everything, every little thing he could get his graspers on. And he also was, he had to work again. He didn't actually make that much money from Hell's Angels, and he didn't make that much money from his articles. So at some point, he was hard pressed to continue making a dime. And so he went back to his roots. He went back to what he knew, which was sports writing. And in 1971, he had a very good friend named Oscar Acosta. For those of you who aren't familiar, Will, would you like to talk a little bit about Oscar Acosta?
Oscar Acosta also appears in Hell's Angels as a radical Chicano lawyer who basically mentors Hunter S. Thompson in the way of left-wing politics and fighting the man and so forth. But all you really need to know about Acosta is that he is Guillermo del Toro in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
It's God, what's his name? It's not Guillermo del Toro. It's
Benicio del Toro.
There we go. Benicio.
God damn it! Too many del Toros, dude.
What
anyway,
the fuck?
Yeah, and then there's Javier Bardem, who I always mix them up with as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
is that because you're a racist, Will?
Yeah, but anyway, the side character. Okay, one of the funniest lines from Fear and Loathing is he's terrifying Tobey Maguire in the backseat of the convertible, and he goes, "You're not prejudiced, are you?" And the terrified Tobey Maguire goes, "Oh, hell no, man." And then he goes, "Good, because my attorney here, in spite of his racial handicap, is extremely essential to me."
Yeah, which, by the way, something I love about the book is he repeatedly refers to him as his Samoan lawyer, even though he is completely aware of the fact that he's Latin American. He's such a dickhead. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that scene. I actually have a quote written down that I also love. So, during this time, they're doing drugs. They're doing amphetamines and they're doing mescaline, which is an awesome combo.
I
Not that
have.
I've-
Oh, hold on. The short story Screwjack. It's 3 short stories. It's an audiobook. You guys should listen to it. But the one of the stories is about his first mescaline trip, and I'll read a little bit of that at some point.
Well,
so.
I got to read this. I've never read Screwjack
Go.
before.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's like an hour long. The audiobook. There's shout out to this narrator, this guy named Scott Sowers or Sowers. He narrated most of the Thompson stuff, but he has completely nailed the delivery of Thompson's writing. So if you see an audiobook by narrated by Scott Sauer, I recommend it anyway.
Yeah, well, really quickly, in that same scene with Tobey Maguire, there's a part right after that I love, where they keep on referring to the drugs they're taking as his heart medication, because they don't want to scare him too much. But they're also, bear in mind, audience, in the middle of a drug bender, so they are insane. And so, Benicio del Toro, his lawyer, from now on, let's refer to him as Dr. Gonzo, because that's how he's referred to. Dr. Gonzo is what he's referred to in the book. And so Dr. Gonzo looks over at Raoul Duke, who's Hunter S. Thompson, and he says something like snappy, or irritated with him. And Raoul Duke looks over and he says, "You scurvy shyster bastard! You're speaking to a doctor of journalism."
Yeah, he worked the doctor thing so much that his nickname among reporters just became Doc.
But yeah, so
God.
let's jump back and go back a little bit to the historical context. So, he's depressed. He feels like shit. He needs a job. So he decides to go report. Well, he goes to LA twice, or I'm sorry, Las Vegas twice. And the time that really cements the writing of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is when he goes to the Mint 400 motorcycle races. So he goes there. And initially his job, right, is to write about it in the traditional sense. Who won, who lost, what'd you see? But the issue is they're in the middle of the fucking desert. So he goes there, he's already drunk because he's drinking before he got there, he's drinking at the bar. And the second the races start, it's just a sandstorm. He can't see shit. Immediately he's like, this is completely futile and a complete waste of time. And so instead, like in time, he just starts writing about his experience being there. He writes an article about what it's like at the press tent. He talks about what it's like being in a sandstorm. Oh, what's up?
Nothing, just a mic thing.
Okay, yeah. Will just looked up with vacant eyes and started tapping on his mic like he was tripping balls or something.
Oh yeah, I actually ate 4 or 5 pellets of mescaline before I sat down today.
Awesome.
So
yeah. These
just,
goddamn beasts.
in the spirit of all of that. Flashing back to the convertible where Dr. Gonzo is reaching through a briefcase full of drugs to get a salt shaker full of cocaine. They're driving a convertible with the top down at 90 miles an hour, and he starts unscrewing the salt shaker cap over his bare chest, and then the car hits a slight bump or something, or he sneezes, and 100 lines of cocaine just go flying into the wind.
Erupt.
Yeah. And he starts screaming and he goes, "Did you see what God just did to me?"
I will say, I rewatched that movie, and I feel like every time I watch it, I like the performance of Johnny Depp a little bit less in a weird way. It's awesome. I think that it does stay kind of true to the book, but it's just, I feel like it led people to believe that Hunter S. Thompson is something that he's not. And if you want to see the most accurate depiction of Hunter S. Thompson I've ever seen in my entire fucking life, there's a movie, I don't remember where you can find it, but you can just Google it, called Fear and Loathing in Aspen. And that's actually the first time I'd ever heard about Aspen, the thing that had happened with Hunter S. Thompson in Aspen, Colorado. And it's directed by RFK Jr.'s son, so pirate it. I don't know anything about his son, but he's probably doing okay financially. Pirate this shit, just fuck RFK Jr. But whoever the lead actor is who plays Hunter S. Thompson, it's he just becomes Hunter S. Thompson. It is the best depiction of what he's like that I've ever seen, because it's so. In the last episode, we talked about how in real life, Hunter S. Thompson was kind of like a shy, reserved person. That's what he captures, and he makes it work.
And then there's another movie called The Rum Diary, also with Johnny Depp, which is more like Thompson's imagination of himself, or Thompson's fans' imagination of him. But you know, there's a lot of people that were close to Thompson that said Rum Diary was pretty accurate. So I don't know. Obviously, I never knew the fucker, so I can't weigh in.
Yeah, I think I was 7 when he was. So it'd be weird if we were friends with him. Will.
Yeah, that would raise some eyebrows, right?
I think a lot of people would have a lot of questions for our parents if, if just let good old Mr. Thompson babysit us. The man who allegedly woke up and the first thing he did was drink whiskey and do cocaine. Although to be fair, I think that message, that note, is a little apocryphal. I don't think he actually did that every day. I think that was just him having some fun. I do think that he did drugs every day, though.
He definitely smoked weed every day. The one thing he never backed up. No. And now his essay about the 1976 Fleetwood Eldorado Cadillac. I begin. The 1976 Fleetwood Eldorado Cadillac convertible is a monument to some of the ugliest moments in American history. The cruel and terrible journeys by mule trains and wagons and drag sleds and wooden-wheeled stagecoaches that hauled the great westward movement for 2,000 miles from the Mississippi River to the Rockies and on to California, where money grew on trees and the streets of San Francisco were paved with gold bricks. Some people made it the easy way, taking 6 or 8 month journeys on wooden steam sailboats around the bottom of Argentina between icebergs and sea monsters and shipwrecks in the frozen Strait of Magellan, where they had to stay well clear of any ice floe or island where they might be lured ashore by false land lights and then boarded at night by gangs of desperate, malaria-crazed survivors of some previous disaster who had been stranded there for 9 months with no matches or water and only dead seal blubber to feed on while they waited with sharp sticks and bludgeons for the next ship to come through and maybe pick them up. And then, up the other side, another 8,000 miles past Chile and Lima and Mexico in a boat full of crazy people until they finally found the channel into San Francisco Bay, and they swarmed frantically ashore, only to be set upon by cruel thugs and robbers who worked the waterfront in gangs that murdered the strong ones and sold the women and children into slavery on Chinese merchant junks, which carried them off another 6,000 miles to spend the rest of their lives in bamboo cages on the other side of the world. The hard way to go west in America was to do it by land and creep across the continent at 1 or 2 miles a day and know that at any moment you might be scalped for no reason or burned at the stake by Comanches or maybe chopped up and eaten by your own traveling companions if you got trapped in the snow on a lonely pass above Reno or forced to embrace cannibalism yourself.
Jesus, that's brutal. And you say that we can't do a podcast episode about Blood Meridian, Will.
Yeah. I know it'll happen eventually. I'm just trying to stave you off as long as possible. You know, you're like a bear that's trying to lick the honey off my face, and I'm just keeping you at bay with a stick. I know I can't do it forever, but it's fucking coming.
But you have fear inside of you, and your body just reflexively does. It resists.
Yeah, when Johnny Depp in Fear and Loathing crouches on the couch with the megaphone and the bear mace, that's where I'm at with you right now. Get back, you fucker! This is mace. You want this?
Do you want to know? I think what my favorite sequence in that movie is, and in the book, it's because they're basically fucking identical. To be honest,
yeah,
it's like No Country for Old Men. You can kind of just take either or. I would say it's the circus scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he drives like up onto the curb and all the ballet people are like panicking. He's like, "Yeah, just take a car." And he and Dr. Gonzo go inside. The reason why I love that scene is because Dr. Gonzo gets the Noid, Will. Like
I'm starting to get The fear.
The fear was
The fear.
that made me laugh so hard because that is something that everybody's felt if they've had even a comparable experience to that, which of course Will and I are good boys. We would never do something like that. But if hypothetically we
Just
did.
Pure, yeah.
Yeah.
We've never been anywhere near any of this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
That'd
but
be
I have
for
a friend.
degenerates.
I have a very close friend named Dickard Sin Penis, and he has done these things. And when some of the times when Dickard had experiences with acid, he got the fear, and it's something that you can't shake, you can't get rid of. You pour yourself a warm bath, and you still feel like you can't achieve any level of comfort. And what makes it even better is I imagine that feeling in a place called Circus, where there's like clowns and people doing backflips, like a place that is pure insanity.
Yeah, at one point, Thompson points over and says, "Oh, look, a woman fucking a polar bear." And Gonzo goes, "Don't say that to me right now, man."
So audience, I understand that this has kind of been a little discombobulated structure-wise, but what we're trying to express here is that's really what Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is. It is this just crazy stream of consciousness drug binge that Hunter S. Thompson's caught in the middle of. And like I said, it's kind of a response to Aspen. And for the most part, the book is just fun. It's just interesting, hearing about this. I believe it takes place over like 2 days. But there are little tiny moments of reflection. And this is where I see the Aspen connection. In fact, I'd actually like to read a part from the book. So at some point, Raoul Duke, who, audience, like I said, if you haven't figured it out yet, is Hunter S. Thompson. It's his nickname he's given himself. He reflects and he says, "Strange memories on this nervous night in Las Vegas. 5 years later, 6, it seems like a lifetime, or at least a main era. The kind of peak that never comes again. San Francisco in the middle 60s was a very special time and place to be a part of. Maybe it meant something, maybe not, in the long run. But no explanation, no mix of words or music or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there and alive in that corner of time in the world, whatever it meant. History is hard to know because of all the hired bullshit. But even without being sure of history, in quotes, it seems entirely reasonable to think that every now and then the energy of a whole generation comes to a head in a long, fine flash, for reasons that nobody really understands at the time and which never explain, in retrospect, what actually happened. My central memory of that time seems to hang on 1 or 5 or maybe 40 nights, or the early or very early mornings, when I left the Fillmore half crazy, and instead of going home, aimed the big 650 Lightning across the Bay Bridge at 100 miles an hour wearing LL Bean shorts and a boot shepherd's jacket, booming through the Treasure Island Tunnel at the lights of the other end, or the lights of Oakland and Berkeley and Richmond, not quite sure which turn to take off when I got to the other end, always stalling the toll gate, too twisted to find neutral while I fumbled for change. But being absolutely certain that no matter which way I went, I would come to a place where people were just as high and wild as I was. No doubt at all about that. And we're almost done here. There was madness in any direction, at any hour. If not across the bay, then up the Golden Gate or down 101 to Los Altos or La Honda. You could strike sparks anywhere. There was a fantastic universal sense that whatever we were doing was right, and we were winning. And that, I think, was the handle. That sense of inevitable victory over the forces of old and evil. Not in any mean or military sense. We didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. There was no point in fighting, on our side or theirs. We had all the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. Now, less than 5 years later, you can go up a steep hill in Las Vegas and look west, and with the right kind of eyes, you can almost see the high water mark, that place where the wave finally broke and rolled back. And basically what he's saying is like, the dream's over, and now I'm a dad. Like I'm in reality. I pay bills, and now I'm at fucking Las Vegas, which is, Gomorrah. It's the opposite of everything I thought the future would be.
Yeah, I mean, Thompson participated so fully in the San Francisco acid hippie counterculture that he is probably the most qualified person to write its obituary. And that's what this is. This is the tombstone of the counterculture right here. And you will hear that excerpt that Richard just read, you will probably hear that just bouncing off the walls of cultural history in America for a very long time, because I think that it, does capture the incredible sense of momentum that the counterculture had, the extraordinary faith within itself that it would prevail. And, it could cite as evidence the fact that it had created the largest social movement in American history, that it had triggered the moon landings, created women's liberation and Earth Day, had ended many of the worst aspects of like the Red Scare, and eventually forced Nixon out of office. So all of these things were claimed, as victories that would create a wave across all these different fronts, racial fronts, fronts of sexuality and class oppression, and resistance to the war, and resistance to political corruption, and the nuclear world order based on mutually assured destruction. Going against all of that simultaneously, the counterculture stood a chance of prevailing. But I mean, to not be too nostalgic about drugs, I think that you can say that while drugs were probably essential for starting certain aspects of the countercultural awakening in politics, the continued use of them well after the cork was opened from the mental bottle created a generation of, as he says later, failed seekers, people that are just desperate wipeouts whose brains have been fried by, you know, a constant cocktail of dexedrine, acid, and grass.
Yeah. Well, if you want to see the most,
like the idea that people should be free to use drugs, and the idea that unlimited drug use are good for you, should probably be separated pretty cleanly, and that's
yeah,
what didn't happen in the 70s.
yeah. Well, I think that the death of that movement was kind of twofold. One, it's kind of what you were talking about, right? Which is that living that sort of drug abusing lifestyle is unsustainable physically and psychologically. You will burn out. You will eventually, your brain will run out of those chemicals and it'll start frying you down to a primitive animal. I was thinking while you were talking that the most hyperbolic, the most concentrated example of what you're talking about is the Manson family. Because a lot of people credit the La Bianca murders as kind of the death blow for hippie culture being romanticized. Because then
Definitely.
yeah. And I think that the other end of what killed that culture was commercialism. Because when you look into ultimately anything that's sexy, anything that's hip is going to turn into a product, at least in America. And as I was listening, as I was reading Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, it takes place in 1971. And I started thinking about Las Vegas, and I started thinking about the 70s, right? And the 70s is very flashing lights. It's very fun. But a lot of that 60s outfits and shit, they stayed. Like, you think of like, imagine, a guy at a disco ball, like dancing with a peace symbol on his deep V shirt in his blazer and shit. Like a lot of the aesthetics of the 60s remained in the 70s, but it didn't have any meaning. It was just an image. It was just an outfit and a costume they were wearing. When in all actuality, like the 70s really is just the 60s without any meaning, or with all the meaning sucked out of it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And also definitely an upsurge in the availability first of cocaine, and then more and then much more malignantly, I'll say, heroin.
Yes.
And that's what both the Thomas Pynchon novel and the Paul Thomas Anderson movie Inherent Vice are
God, that
about.
movie's so fucking good.
Is the transition over from a culture based on LSD and cannabis to a culture based on the U.S. government smuggling huge amounts of cocaine and heroin into the West Coast and into New Orleans, beginning pretty far back actually, but coming up to a serious peak enough to actually change drug culture in the early 70s. So, like one thing that a lot of like hippie refugees on the West Coast noticed in the 70s was the sudden availability, cheapness, and pervasiveness of heroin.
Yeah.
Heroin that was coming from Indochina and later Afghanistan. So yeah, It was also a long-standing CIA operation to distribute crack in the United States. Anybody who wants to know about that should read Gary Webb's book, Dark Alliance. Webb was an investigative journalist for the San Jose Mercury News who wrote about the CIA's the Contras in Nicaragua, crack, and then dealers in LA like Freeway Ricky Ross. And tragically, he killed himself by shooting himself in the head twice. You don't hear about that a lot, but that's what happened. Yeah.
I guess he just really wanted to get the job done.
Yeah. But luckily, the book is in print and you can find it pretty easily. There's also a documentary about it called Drugs as Weapons Against Us. But anyway, cutting back to Fear and Loathing here. So he's going to cover this motorcycle race in Las Vegas. He goes there with his, Samoan lawyer, Dr. Gonzo. And what makes up like the bulk of this movie? Like what's the conflict or the drama here?
What makes this movie interesting is that there really is no conflict. I mean, the conflict that initiates it is that Hunter S. Thompson needs money, and it's funny. He was like apparently he had a lot of clout after Hell's Angels, because when the book starts, he's going to go off and he's talking to his quote unquote Samoan attorney, and they're both like, yeah, we need like a sexy convertible. Oh, we're gonna need 100 hits of mescaline. They're laying out all this shit that's just gonna be fun, and Hunter S. Thompson literally just calls his publisher and is like, yeah, for business expenses I need I just need my pay in advance. And they're like, okay, and they just wire him like $1,000.
One thing that is abundantly clear about Hunter S. Thompson is across time and space, do not ever give that man a fucking business account. Do not ever give that man a fucking credit card. Do not ever expense that guy, because he will book a fucking private jet, stay in the penthouse of the hotel of whatever city he's in, order $300 of room service a day, and then like leave 600 airplane-sized bottles of whiskey on the floor when he leaves. And make you fucking pay for it.
Dude, he's the fucking man. I'm sorry. But yeah, so he ends up getting in the convertible. We already talked earlier about the ride. Allegedly he picks up a hitchhiker. At some point they get pulled over by a police officer. And he ends up getting out of it because the police officer is so lonely on those highways that all he wants is he's like, can I just get a kiss?
I'm pretty sure, weirdly enough, that was in the movie and not the book. I think in the book, the cop doesn't try and kiss him.
Okay, maybe I'm getting him mixed up then.
Yeah, there was a strange detail I think they added in the movie.
I wouldn't be that surprised. So the cop is played by Gary Busey, who, if you are aware of him, he's a pretty nutty guy. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was just an ad lib from him and they liked it enough to keep it in.
I could see it. See it. I think maybe to enhance the vibe, I've pulled up the mescaline story from Screwjack, and this is when Screwjack was printed. It was like a print run of like 300 copies that were hand distributed to friends and family of Hunter S.
That's kind of like the wall poster.
Yeah. So this is low circulation material for sure. Do you want me to read it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is Thompson's first time trying mescaline. He's already tried acid, but this is the first time with mescaline. Okay. Getting toward dawn now, very foggy in the head, and no dexedrine left. For the first time in at least 5 years, I am out of my little energy bombs. Nothing in the bottle but 5 Ritalin tablets and a big spansule of mescaline and speed. I don't know the ratio of the mixture or what kind of speed is in there of the mescaline. I have no idea what it will do to my head, my heart, or my body. But the Ritalin is useless at this point, not strong enough, so I'll have to risk the other. Oscar is coming by at 10 to take me out to the airport for the flight to Denver and Aspen. So, if I sink into madness and weird hallucinations, at least he can get me checked out of the hotel. The plane ride itself might be another matter. How can a man know? Well, I just swallowed the bugger. Soon it will take hold. I have no idea what to expect, and in this dead, tired, rundown condition, almost anything can happen. My resistance is gone, so any reaction will be extreme. I've never had mescaline. Meanwhile, out on the strip, the zoo action never stops. For a while, I watched 4 LA sheriffs beat up 2 teenagers, then handcuff them and haul them away. Terrible howls and screams floated up to my balcony. I'm sorry, sir. Oh, God, please. I'm sorry. Whack. One cop picked him up by the feet while he was hanging onto a hurricane fence. The other one kicked him loose, then kneeled on his back and whacked him on the head a few times. I was tempted to hurl a wine bottle down on the cops, but refrained. Later, more noise, this time a dope freak, bopping along and singing at the top of his lungs some kind of medieval chant, oblivious to everything, just bopping along the strip. And remember that shooting scene in Alfie's? Also, the film opening with the man reeling into a plastic house, vomiting, cursing the news, picking up a pistol, and firing into the ceiling, driven mad by the news and the pressures of upward mobility. Then perhaps to the classic cat on amateur night, his neighbor's wife, and from there to the shooting at Alfie's. Yes, it all begins to gel. Jesus, 6:45 now, and the pill has taken hold for real. The metal on the typewriter has turned from dull green to a sort of high-gloss blue. The keys sparkle, glitter with highlights. I sort of levitated in the chair, hovering in front of the typewriter, not sitting. Fantastic brightness on everything, polished and waxed with special lighting. And the physical end of the thing is like the first half hour on acid, a sort of buzzing all over, a sense of being gripped by something, vibrating internally but with no outward sign or movement. I'm amazed that I can keep typing. I feel like both me and the typewriter have become weightless. It floats in front of me like a bright toy. Weird. I can still spell, but I had to think about that last one. Weird. Christ, I wonder how much worse this is going to get. It's 7 now, and I have to check out in an hour. If this is the beginning of an acid-style trip, I might as well give up on the idea of flying anywhere. Taking off in an airplane right now would be an unbearable experience. It would blow the top right off my fucking head. The physical sensations of lifting off the ground would be unbearable in this condition. I feel like I could step off the balcony right now and float gently down to the sidewalk. Yes, and getting worse. A muscle in my thigh is seized by spasms, quivering like something disembodied. I can watch it, feel it, but not be connected. There's not much connection between my head and my body, but I can still type, and very fast, too, much faster than normal. Yes, the goddamn drug is definitely taking hold, very much like acid, a sense of very pleasant physical paralysis. Wow, that's spelling. While the brain copes with something never coped with before, the brain is doing all the work right now, adjusting to this new stimulus like an old soldier ambushed and panicked for a moment, getting a grip but not in command, hanging on, waiting for a break but expecting something worse. And yes, it's coming on. I couldn't possibly get out of this chair right now. I couldn't walk. All I can do is type. It feels like the blood is racing through me, all around my body at fantastic speeds. I don't feel any pumping, just a sense of increased flow, speed, interior speed, and a buzzing, without noise, high-speed vibrations, and more brightness. The little red indicator that moves along with the ball on this typewriter now appears to be made of arterial blood. It throbs and jumps along like a living thing. I feel like vomiting, but the pressure is too great. My feet are cold, hands cold, head in a vice. Fantastic effort to lift the bottle of Budweiser and take a sip. I drink like breathing it in, feeling it all the way cold into my stomach. Very thirsty, but only half a beer left, and too early to call for more. Christ, there's the catch. I'm going to have to deal with all manner of complicated shit like packing, paying, and all that shit at any moment now. If the thing bites down much harder, I might wig out and demand beer. Stay away from the phone. Watch the red arrow. This typewriter is keeping me on my rails. Without it, I'd be completely adrift and weird. Maybe I should call Oscar and get him down here with some beer to keep me away from that balcony. Ah, shit, this is very weird. My legs are half frozen and a slow panic in my stomach, wondering how much stranger it'll get. Turn the radio on, focus on something, but don't listen to the words. The vicious bullshit, Jesus! The sun is coming up. The room is unbearably bright. Then a cloud across the sun. I can see the cloud and the sudden loss of light in the room, now getting brighter as the cloud passes or moves, out there somewhere, much harder to type now, but it must be done. This is my handle. Keep the brain tethered. Hold it down. Any slippage now could be a landslide, losing the grip, falling, or flipping around. Christ, can't blow my nose, can't find it, but I can't see it in my hand too. But they can't get together. Ice in my nose, trembling with the radio on now. Some kind of flute music, cold and fantastic vibration, so fast I can't move. The ball just flipped back. A space capsule floating across the page. Some kind of rotten, phony soul music on the radio. Melvin Laird singing The Wait. Oh yes, we get wary, some fuck awful accent. Hair jelly music. Anthony Hatch in Jerusalem. Great God, the stinking news is on. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. No mention of Nixon. Too much for a tortured head. Christ, what a beastly job. To look for a new station on this radio dial. And down the bright blue line and all these numbers. Quick, switch to FM. Get rid of the fucking news. Find something in a foreign language. The news it's already on the TV screen, but I won't turn it on. Won't even look at it. Nixon's face. God damn. I just called Oscar. Fantastic effort to dial. And the fucking line is busy. Hang on now, no slippage, ignore this weird trembling. Laugh, yes, that sense of humor. Snag it down from somewhere, the skyhook. Jesus, I have to lock that door. Get the do not disturb sign out there before a maid blunders in. I can't stand it. And I just heard one out there creeping along the hallway, jiggling doorknobs. Oh, yeah, the famous smile. Yes, I just got a hold of Oscar. Okay, he's coming with some more beer. Okay, that is the problem now. I can't start fucking around with the management, shouting for beer at this hour of dawn. Disaster area that way. Don't fuck with the management. Not now in this wiggy condition. Conserve this inch of beer until Oscar arrives with more. Get a human buffer zone in here. Something to hide behind. The fucking news is on again. On FM this time. Singer Sewing Machine is 15 minutes until 8 o'clock. Washington's birthday sale. We cannot tell a lie. Our machines will sew you into a bag so fast you'll think you went blind. Goddamn, is there no peaceful sound on the radio? Yes, I had one for an instant, but now with more ads and bullshit. Now, right there. A violin sound. Hold that. Stay with it. Focus on that violin sound. Ride it out. This beer won't last. The thirst will doom me to fucking with the management. No, I have some ice left. On the balcony, but careful out there. Don't look over the edge. Go out, backward. Feel around for the paper ice bucket. Seize it carefully between thumb and forefinger, then walk slowly back to this chair. Try it now. Done. But my legs have turned to jelly. Impossible to move around except like a rolling ball. Don't bounce. Get away from that phone. Keep typing. The grip, the handle. Jesus, my hands are vibrating now. I don't see how they can type. The keys feel like huge plastic mounds, very mushy, and that bright red arrow jumping along like a pill in one of those sing-along movie shorts, bouncing from word to word of the music. Thank God for the sonata in F major for oboe and guitar by Charles Starkweather. No ads. Listener-sponsored radio. Not even news. Salvation has many faces. Remind me to send a check to the station when I get well. KPFK? Sounds right. The beer crisis is building. I am down to saliva in this last brown bottle. God damn, half my brain is already pondering how to get more beer, but it won't work. No way. No beer is available here. No way. Think about something else. Thank God for this music. If I could get to the bathroom, I'd like to get a towel and hang it over the face of the stinking TV set. The news is on there. I can smell it. My eyes feel bigger than grapefruits. Where are the sunglasses? I see them over there. Creep across. That cloud is off the sun again, for real this time. Incredible light in the room. White blaze on the wall. Glittering typewriter keys. And down there, under the balcony, traffic moves steadily along the Sunset Strip in Hollywood, California. What zip code known? We just came back from a tour of the Soviet Union and Denmark. Careful now. Don't stray into the news. Keep it pure. Yes, I hear a flute now. Music starting again. What about cigarettes? Another problem area. And I hear that wily old char woman sucking on the doorknob again. God damn her sneaky ass. What does she want? I have no money. If she comes in here, the rest of her days will be spent in a fear coma. I am not in the mood to fuck around with the char woman. Keep them out of here. They prowl this hotel like crippled wolves. Smile again, yes. Gain a step. Tighten the grip. When will this thing peak? It seems to be boring deeper. I know it can't be worse than acid, but that's what it feels like now. I have to catch a plane in 2 hours. Can it be done? Jesus, I couldn't fly now. I couldn't walk to the plane. Oh, Jesus, the crunch is on. My throat and mouth are like hot gravel, and even the saliva is gone. Can I get to the bottle of Old Crow and mix it up with the remains of these ice fragments? A cool drink for the freak? Give the gentleman something cool, dear. Can't you see he's wired his brain to the water pumps and his ear to the generator? Stand back. Sparks. Back off. Maybe he's too far gone. Coil a snake around him. Get that drink, boy. You are slipping. We need concentration. Concentration, yes. The music. Some kind of German flower song. Martin Bormann sings White Rabbit. Ambushed in the jungle by a legion of naked gooks. Whiskey uber alles. Get that drink. Get up. Move.
Jesus. That's all I can say. Is Jesus Christ. That sounds like a nightmare. I have, not that I was considering it before, I've never done mescaline and I never will.
I'm sure he took like 5 times the standard dose on his first try. So
that sounds like a Hunter S. Thompson-esque move.
Well, I feel like just reading that has blown some kind of circuit in my brain.
And we are back from the break. Will just read a heartwarming little tale of a very psychologically healthy man writing a story, kind of like Mr. Rogers.
And Richard got to watch me during the break eat an entire bag of Trader Joe's calamari. So I commend the man for his patience. I really do. What a man to
Will,
listen to me rave and also watch me eat over video call.
Yeah, Will, why are you doing this stupid academic bullshit when you could just be putting mukbangs on YouTube?
What the fuck is a mukbang? I keep hearing about this.
So a mukbang, it's kind of an older term now. I think mukbang started when we were probably in like late high school or something. But basically, somebody sets up a camera and there's like a huge table full of food, and they just eat food in front of you. I don't get it. I don't like it. It makes me angry and uncomfortable. Like a lot of the times when like women do it, they do like ASMR shit, like tapping their big scary fucking long nails and whatever they're eating. It's just disgusting, and I hate people that do it. Just for it, they should be hurt.
And goodbye to 10 subscribers.
Oh no, the mukbang fans. There's a Venn diagram of people that listen to us and people that love mukbangs, and it's just a circle. It's the perfect crossover.
I was working at a cafe one time, and I was running some food around, and there's a woman with her laptop open, and she was watching full screen pimple popping, like deep carve videos.
God.
And she's sitting in the middle of a busy, like she's not like in the corner of the cafe. Like everyone, like half the cafe, if they wanted to, could watch, like cysts explode under like macro photography lenses. And I was just like, obviously I don't care and I don't judge, but in public, some things should not be done.
Dude, that's kind of like if the person doing. Okay, 1 second. Fucking printer. I'm gonna unplug this thing. God damn it. If that printer goes off one more time, I'm going to smash it with a fucking baseball bat, like Office Space.
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned the printer. Also, right before we started rolling, my neighbor started idling a motorcycle like fucking 15 feet from my front door and let it idle and had been letting it idle already for like 10 minutes. Like they were trying to do like, I don't know, some kind of like live engine service on their bike in the parking lot. I was so mad, but then I thought, what a sign from God that what we are doing is righteous, because Hunter S. Thompson is also, of course, a motorcycle freak. And the last thing that I'll say as kind of like a way to wrap up this episode is this little part about his personal motorcycle habit that he puts at the bottom of Hell's Angels. But anyway, back to printers and faxes. So if you read Better Than Sex, he will talk a fucking lot about the fax machine and how, the fax machine was like the key to the Tiananmen Square revolution and shit. The fact that the Chinese could send faxes over to the West, talking about their terrible oppression. And then he also apparently both faxes people around the clock and gets faxed around the clock. And so you can just imagine this machine in the corner of his office that is just like always going, like fucking day and night. And so he used to drop, these little memos to other reporters that were on the campaign trail with him in '92. And so I just wanted to read some of the little notes, some of the little missives that he left behind for people. So this one is to his publisher. September 28th, 1992. I will fight for your right to be weird, just as I know you will fight for mine. We may be weird, Bubba, but we are not as weird as George Bush. He is like a dying yellow dog with broken teeth and slits for eyes and nothing else to say. The evil brute is finished. He will flap around on the hook for a while, just another leader of the free world turned into a mass of foul jelly. But the minute he sinks below 30% in the polls, or when Clinton goes above 50, he will start acting dangerously crazy and attack in every direction like a savage gut-shot hyena with only minutes to live. He is already trading strip mining rights in 24 national forests for electoral votes in the Rust Belt, and he long ago peddled the remains of his wretched ass to a band of God-spewing religious Nazis and stupid hate-mongers. But all that is nothing compared to the horrible damage he'll do when he knows that his deal has finally gone down. It will be like George Wallace on his deathbed, being told that his final appeal to go to heaven has been denied, and that hell is run by a gang of mean blacks. George Bush is doomed, along with all the rest of his rotten, degraded family. Shit. Even Nixon is stabbing him in the nuts. We are coming into the time of Mr. Bill, and many things will change very quickly and without warning. So be prepared. The last train from Little Rock has already left the station, and the terrible night of the whore hopper will come on November 3rd. Take my word for it. I understand these things, and you don't. And I will be there to experience the final throes of this tragically sexualized presidential campaign that will mean the end for George Bush, Marilyn Quayle, and many others. Beware. The time has come, Bubba. The hog is out of the tunnel, and he cannot be stopped.
Oh, fuck yes.
The whole fucking book is like this.
I gotta read this now.
Yeah.
It's like we said off the top of the last episode, possibly the angriest man who's ever been born on this earth.
I mean,
It's funny,
to have to live through Nixon, man, is something that I really like. I think it would have broken me too, to be honest with you. Just to watch the counterculture die and to watch Nixon become president and the Vietnam War spiral into, this fucking charnel house of horrors. And then to see Reagan, and I don't think I would have made it either.
Mhm.
Personally.
Yeah. It reminds me of I was watching this interview with him, and the guy in the interview kind of offhandedly remarked that Hunter S. Thompson wasn't sober. He was having a beer and he had smoked a joint. And Hunter just sits down and he's like, I do this for you people. I smoke weed and I drink because you don't want to be around me when I'm not doing it. He's like, he's like, here's the code. You don't want to be around me when I'm sober. You don't want to be around me if I've done acid recently, because I'm going to take that chair and throw it at you if I do. He just goes off in the back and he's like, I am basically an unbearable monster if I am not at least a little intoxicated constantly.
Yeah. Just so he got faxed in 92 by Playboy magazine, and it was just a little one-page fax, and the book actually has pictures in it. And another thing is that Thompson loved to draw. And so when he would fax people, they would often come with his little drawings, like in the margins of the fax.
Mhm.
And some of the ones in this book are so funny. Like I sent Richard one where it was the official typescript of the U.S. House of Representatives, like Congress, and then the date and so forth. And then under it is just a black and white picture of the gaping red lips of a plastic sex doll. And so Playboy faxes him in 92 on the campaign trail. And this is the election with Bill Clinton, Ross Perot, and George Bush. And Thompson's basic position is, I'm voting for Bill Clinton because I want George Bush out of office more than anything. So Playboy asks him, and he writes back to them. The title of the memo is "Too Many Whores," and let me get ready to read this one. Too many whores. This is a hard one to call, especially from 10,000 miles away and 8,000 feet high and 19 weeks before the election. But what the hell? We are, after all, professionals, and we do our finest work, our highest and keenest thinking, under conditions of extreme pressure. Ho ho, so try this. Only a fool would vote this year. The smart people will hunker down, like dazed rabbits, quivering and staring and shitting on each other while they hop back and forth in their cages. The smart will ignore politics this year. They will pretend to be dumb, like the bunny rabbit, but they will really be acting smart. Shit on them, that's what I say. Let them burrow deep like moles. In fact, they are dumber than moles, and many will be dyed bright yellow before Election Day. How's that for an image? All smart people dyed yellow, or maybe pink, who knows? They are doomed. Pink is the color of stupid, and yellow is the color of dumb. There are too many whores in politics these days, but the night of the whore hopper is coming. Many will be called, and 9 out of 10 will be chosen to be herded down the long, slippery ramp and into the bottomless sheep dip, where they will wallow and struggle helplessly. Some of them drowning until their bodies are disinfected by powerful acids, vapors, and the fumes of terrible lice medicines that will fry their brains and, like bacon left too long in the microwave. Ronald Reagan was right. Back in the winter of '85, when he told a reporter from People that Armageddon is now, and that this generation may be the one that will have to face the end of the world. Well, maybe so, Bubba, maybe so. But I'll believe it when I see it. Those bastards have been promising us the apocalypse for as far back as I can remember, but they always weasel out of it. And frankly, I've just about given up hope. Fuck them. They lie. Hell, it's worse than a roofing and siding racket or some kind of Ponzi scheme. No, we will not be that lucky. the end will not come quickly, like it says in Revelation 22:7. First will come the shit rain, then the sheep dip, and after that the terrible night of the whorehopper, which might last for 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. That's Revelation 20, verse 7, which is only the tip of the iceberg. The bad news comes in the last two verses of chapter 20, 14 and 15, where it says, "And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire." This is the second death. "And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire." Yeah. And how's that for a sneak preview of your golden years? Cast into the lake of fire with Satan clawing at your leg and trying to drag you under? Horrible. Horrible. It is a grim prospect for Jesus freaks because they know the Bible says that Satan is a cross between a crocodile and a huge hyena. He has 7 heads and 600 teeth, and he weighs 1,000 pounds. A nasty thing to feel getting hold of your leg when you're trying to stay afloat in the lake of fire. That is what a vote for Ross Perot will get you. And a vote for George Bush will get you cast into the great winepress of the wrath of God, which is more or less where we are now, if you believe what you read in the newspapers. So that leaves Clinton, I guess. Yeah, good old Bill. At least he plays the skin flute, and he doesn't mind ducking behind a hedge now and then for a bit of the sucky in the course of his afternoon jog. The Bible also says, "The tortoise shall overtake the hare, then kill him and eat him." So who are we to argue? The fat is in the fire. This ain't no normal election year. A man would have to be crazy not to hit the streets with his vote in his hand on November 3rd, if only to cast it where it can do the most damage, preferably to George Bush. Why not? It may be the last fun we'll have for a while. Death to the weird.
Oh God, it does make me sad how I don't think he ever experiences a moment of levity for the rest of his life after Aspen. I think that's the last moment in his life where he's even remotely calm or happy.
I think the only joy that Hunter gets out of politics is these imaginary scenarios happening to his enemies. Like here's another one from October of '92. To Johnny Cusack, "You need a political movie? How about the story of an ex-president eaten by giant snails on the night of Christmas Eve, only 55 days after losing the election? He was drunk with James Baker in the Lincoln Room, building a fire and finishing off his enemies list, when a huge pot of giant snails, hung in the chimney by Baker for political reasons, suddenly burst open from the fire heat, and thousands of hungry, gigantic, burning, or fire-molten, pansexual, constantly multiplying, meat-eating, savage, brainless, disease-bloated, fiery monster snails erupted out of the Lincoln fireplace and swarmed over them before they could stagger to the door, which was locked anyway from the outside by somebody who was also gummed up and eaten while screaming for help in German as flames engulfed the East Wing." So I think coming up with little images like this probably gave Thompson some sucker in the race. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, his story is the story of a guy who managed to find a synthesis between in terms of literary style between F. Scott Fitzgerald and Allen Ginsberg, with a little bit of Jack Kerouac thrown in. He was also, of course, friends with William S. Burroughs. And so, there's this kind of movement in American literature. Gary Snyder is also part of this. And if you read Kerouac, or if you read Snyder, or even, some of the Ginsberg stuff, you find this sort of not quite journalism, not quite literature. Where it is experiential and autobiographical, and often involves, twisting up grammatical forms and stripping language down to its kind of violent comedic essence. Like Thompson paints scenes that are almost exclusively either violent or funny, and I think that's basically the reason that he's popular. He can make you laugh and he can make you cringe, but it's never boring. I think that's the secret.
Oh, and by the way, while we're still here, there was one thing I wanted to bring up that we didn't get, that I just didn't really see an opportunity to fit in during the Aspen series, the Aspen episode. I want to shout out the illustrator for Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Ralph Steadman. So if you have a hard copy of the book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, or you can find, once again, a PDF on archive.com, org, which has been awesome for me. I've loved it. there are a lot of little like drawings, and it almost reminds me of the illustrations Robert Anton Wilson did in Prometheus Rising, where they're kind of vulgar. They're not even that good, but they're creative and funny and just like really derogative. I'd recommend everybody here check out Ralph Steadman, because he back when Hunter S. Thompson, even when he was doing the wall poster, Ralph Steadman and him collaborated a little bit.
Yeah. And some of the art that came out of Thompson and his circle is definitely worth looking at. Like the wall posters, if you can find those, are pretty interesting. Pretty cool visual design. And Thompson did all these cartoon drawings that are sort of like dark Disney, like really scary versions of like Mickey Mouse and so forth, and a whole lot of different Americana symbols like the Statue of Liberty or whatever, sort of redux in this sort of wiry pencil style with lots of jagged edges and straight lines and kind of crooked proportions, ink blots, splashes of red and yellow ink and shit. So I've liked some of his drawings, the handful that I've seen.
Yeah. So, Will, let's
Yes.
address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The audience might be wondering, why are we doing this episode when we've already concluded Aspen? And the truth is, Will really fucking wanted to talk about Hell's Angels. So why don't we get to the meat of it and go into that a little bit?
I loved reading Hell's Angels. It was entertaining and fun and crazy from start to finish. And on the last episode, I recounted the story of what happened when the Hell's Angels ran into the bongo drums on the roof hippies, and how Allen Ginsberg like mediated the peace. But really, the only thing I wanted to do was read this section of Hell's Angels that comes at the very end, where he talks about his motorcycle riding and what that meant to him. And Thompson is something that I am certain that I am not, which is a thrill seeker. If there's one solid, stable personality trait besides just being completely anti-authority, it's his entire life he is a thrill seeker and a daredevil. In Better Than Sex, he talks about how when he was 15 growing up in Kentucky, when like crazy intense thunderstorms would start, he would go out to the golf course, strip off all his clothes, and fucking dance naked in the rain as like huge lightning bolts came down. And one time, the lightning, actually struck so close to him that it like fucking launched him into the air. And then when he looked back and saw the tree had been split in half and was like smoldering from the lightning. And his clothes and this golf club that he had brought out had basically been like blackened. And so from even an early age, this is a guy that is trying to find the edge, is trying to find, the newer, crazier experience. And it could be drugs one day, it could be motorcycles the next day. I think the reason he's so interested in politics is because politicians are just openly savage. And, he writes about how politicians are the ultimate junkies, seeing themselves in the media, their feeling of power and status, trying desperately, to stay in office. Like to Thompson, like it's easier to withdraw from heroin than it is to watch yourself like lose public office. And that a lot of these people are so desperate to hold on to power that it is like a heroin addict scouring for his next fix. And, he had a good instinct for people, and he had a nose for information. And, when he wasn't getting high and partying, he actually worked, human sources and did the actual legwork on the ground to break really fucking interesting stories. But his entire life was decided by adrenaline, basically. Adrenaline and hatred of all forms of authority. Like he drove with his wife to Little Rock, Arkansas, when Clinton was about to win the presidential election. And his wife suggested that maybe instead they should fly, but he didn't feel like it. But then they started arguing, and his wife brought up the fact that maybe it would be a good idea to fly because Bill Clinton already doesn't like you, and you currently have a license plate, a custom license plate that says "Die, you pig." And then Thompson goes on an excerpt where he's like, well, if I was ever to get pulled over by a cop and forced to explain the license plate, I would say that, well, officer, you know, I am an immigrant actually and love the language of my homeland, Germany. And in German, "Die you pig" actually means colorblind, which I currently am. So that's
That is the worst excuse I've ever. That is like a child lying.
Man. Anyway, Rich, do you have any final notes on Thompson before I read this whole thing and take us out?
Not at all. Let's go ahead and smash this proverbial champagne glass on the ship and get it sailing.
This is the ending of Hell's Angels. All my life, my heart has sought a thing I cannot name. Remembered line from a long-forgotten poem. Months later, when I rarely saw the angels, I still had the legacy of the big machine. 400 pounds of chrome and deep red noise to take out on the coast highway and cut loose at 3 in the morning, when all the cops were over lurking on the 101. My first crash had wrecked the bike completely, and it took several months to have it rebuilt. After that, I decided to ride it differently. I would stop pushing my luck on the curves, always wear a helmet, and try to keep within range of the nearest speed limit. My insurance had already been canceled, and my driver's license was hanging by a thread. So it was always at night, like a werewolf, that I would take the thing out for an honest run down the coast. I would start in Golden Gate Park, thinking only to run a few long curves to clear my head. But in a matter of minutes, I'd be out at the beach with the sound of the engine in my ears, the surf booming up on the seawall, and a fine, empty road stretching all the way down to Santa Cruz, not even a gas station in the whole 70 miles. The only public light along the way is an all-night diner down around Rockaway Beach. There was no helmet on those nights, no speed limit, and no cooling it down on the curves. The momentary freedom of the park was like the one unlucky drink that shoves a wavering alcoholic off the wagon. I would come out of the park near the soccer field and pause for a moment at the stop sign, wondering if I knew anyone parked out there on the midnight humping strip. Then, into first gear, forgetting the cars and letting the beast wind out. 35, 45. Then into second and wailing through the light at Lincoln Way, not worried about green or red signals, but only some other werewolf loony who might be pulling out too slowly to start his own run. Not many of these. And with 3 lanes on a wide curve, a bike coming hard has plenty of room to get around almost anything. Then into third, the boomer gear, pushing 75 in the beginning of a wind scream in the ears, a pressure on the eyeballs like diving into water off a high board. Bent forward, far back on the seats, and a rigid grip on the handlebars as the bike starts jumping and wavering in the wind. Taillights far up ahead, coming closer, faster, and suddenly, zap! Going past and leaning down for a curve near the zoo, where the road swings out to the sea. The dunes are flatter here, and on windy days, sand blows across the highway, piling up in thick drifts as deadly as any oil slick. Instant loss of control, a crashing, cartwheeling slide, and maybe one of those 2-inch notices in the paper the next day. An unidentified motorcyclist was killed last night when he failed to negotiate a turn on Highway 1. Indeed, but no sand this time, so the lever goes up into fourth, and now there's no sound except wind. Screw it all the way over, reach through the handlebars to raise the headlight beam, the needle leans down on 100, and wind-burned eyeballs strain to see down the center line, trying to provide a margin for the reflexes. But with the throttle screwed on, there is only the barest margin, and no room at all for mistakes. It has to be done right. And that's when the strange music starts, when you stretch your luck so far that fear becomes exhilaration and vibrates along your arms. You can barely see at 100. The tears blow back so fast that they vaporize before they get to your ears. The only sounds are wind and a dull roar floating back from the mufflers. You watch the white line and try to lean with it, howling through the turn to the right, then to the left and down the long hill to Pacifica. Letting off now, watching for cops, but only until the next dark stretch and another few seconds on the edge. The edge. There is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. The others, the living, are those who pushed their control as far as they felt they could handle it, and then pulled back or slowed down, or did whatever they had to do when it came time to choose between now and later. But the edge is still out there. Or maybe it's in. The association of motorcycles with LSD is no accident of publicity. They are both a means to an end, to the place of definitions.
That entire time, I just imagined how awesome it would be if the instrumental for Gimme Shelter was playing in the background, and that was the outro. But unfortunately, copyright won't allow us to do
the most copyright piece of music on earth, unfortunately. Yeah. All right, audience. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Bad Role Models. I think Thompson is still a bad role model because annihilating your brain with drugs is not a good way to live your life.
Yep, he was combative, he was angry, he was unpleasant to be around, but he was also an artist. And
all of the women in his life say the same thing, which is like, yeah, he loved us, but he was so crazy and so angry that it scared us, and we had to get out of there. So
yeah, but at the end of the day, God rest his soul. Anyways. At least he wasn't. At least he wasn't a pederast like Lord Byron. So,
yeah, I'm still pouring one out for Thompson. I don't have a problem. All right,
same here.
All right,
bye everybody. We love you. We love you. Bye.
Bye. Welcome to Walmart. I love you.
I love you. I love you. I love you.
Then he becomes groovy. Groovy.